Okay. All right. Well, welcome, everybody. We're just right at the top of the hour, flipping over into 12. Welcome. And yeah, thanks so much for being here. We like to do these every quarter. So it's the summer solstice, first day of summer. Yeah, it's so beautiful. It's gorgeous. And this is kind of a come and go, stay as long as you like, as long as you please. You're welcome to be here all day. Love to have you. We're going to go right until 5 o'clock with classes, starting on the hour, every hour, just kind of rotating through. It's a variety show. This is Jen for Mortimer. If you haven't met Jen, she works, been working on the floor. You might even recognize her from slinging Vitamixes at Costco.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
So many talents, focus on food, nutrition. We're going to be talking about the mysteries of menopause. Mysteries no more.
No more mysteries.
Yeah.
Let's resolve all the issues.
Cool.
Well, at least understand all the issues.
Yeah.
So Malcolm introduced myself. I'll tell you just a little bit my background. My health journey began like many that you hear about with my own health issues that were unresolved. And I had to dive deep into finding solutions. So my particular journey led me back to school for nutrition, where I attended the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, graduated in 2017. I was working full time at the time of doing that. So it took me a while to kind of get my company name together, what I wanted to do, all of that stuff. About the time that I got that figured out, and I started coaching and doing all of that, what happened was, well, 2020 hit, right? COVID hit. During that time, I also lost both my parents within 2 months of each other. So the wind just got taken right out of my sails. So then I just kind of meandered and did that for a while. But now I'm back on track, getting going on my company again and doing way more coaching and group programs and that kind of thing as well. So that's about me. Today I want to talk about menopause, and why I find it important is because, as you mentioned, there's not a lot of information out there. If you Google research papers on reproduction, you'll find about 1 to 2 million research papers on reproduction. You do that same Google search for research papers on menopause, and you'll find about 100,000. It's just not out there. Now, the good news is more and more research is being done, but it's going to take time to catch up. And I don't know about you guys, but I never learned this growing up. I had no idea how long, what it entailed. And I can tell you from my own experience, I can tell you every single thing to do wrong, because I did it all wrong. So menopause has a lot of symptoms. Lots and lots of symptoms. And part of the research is finding that there's more symptoms related to menopause than we ever thought before. Like, who would have thought frozen shoulder was connected to menopause, right? So I'm sure you can attest, you might have some of these, and it's very different and individual for each person, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a refresher just on our regular menstrual cycle and how that is on a regular basis, so that we have all the terminology down to understand what's happening with us when we hit menopause. Okay. So hormones. Go back one. Just for a second, sure. Let me move my. Yeah, I'm happy to share.
He's recording it, and then it's screen sharing with his computer. So
yep.
Register to attend the open house. He'll send you the.
Indeed. Okay. Yeah, you don't have to. I'm happy to share. And also, I'll share my information at the end. If you need anything, I can send to you. So hormones. Everybody here is probably familiar with estrogen. There's 3 types of estrogens, to refresh your memory. There's estradiol, which we get when is it not syncing there?
No, it's all.
You're good? Okay. Which when we have during our menstrual cycle. It's the most active and the strongest of all of the estrogens. That's going to come into play later. Estrone is produced in our adrenal glands, and let me back up. All of our estrogens are produced in our ovaries, in our fat cells, and in our adrenal glands, okay? We'll come to that in a little bit. During menopause, the estrone is produced in our adrenal glands. It's a weaker of the estrogens. Estriol is produced in the developing placenta, and so if you're not pregnant, it's practically undetectable. Okay, so the other reproductive hormones that we don't think about, we think about estrogen so much, but not so much the other ones. Progesterone is produced by the ovaries after ovulation, and it helps us with our moods and sleep optimization. So anybody having sleep issues, think progesterone, right? Moods as well. And then there's a whole subset called androgens. Now, androgens are typically what we think of as male hormones. But here's the thing. Men have estrogen, women have androgens. It's just in different balances, right? So androgens are mostly produced by the ovaries and the adrenal glands, and a little bit, as I said, in the fat tissue. So, and I'm going to struggle with this one, pronouncing it. Andros, I always struggle. I'm not even going to say it. You can read it. The first one there. So I'm going to say testosterone first. Balancing, it helps with our balancing our moods. Think of energy, strength, blood. It's really the epitome of a male, right? They have a lot of testosterone and the libido, of course. Then the androstenedione, I don't know if I actually pronounced that correct, but it helps us calm ourselves through the GABA neural pathways. And it also helps with inflammation and helps regulate our immune system, okay? So you can start to see that when we enter menopause and our hormones start to fluctuate, these things start to get out of balance, right? And then we have DHEA, and it helps neutralize cortisol's immune suppressing effects and helps us resist disease. Cortisol and DHEA also have an inverse or converse relationship with each other. So if your cortisol is high, your DHEA is low. And if your DHEA is high, your cortisol is low, okay? Most of us are familiar with cortisol, kind of what people would refer to typically as a stress hormone, right? Much more than that, but we'll leave it at that for now. Also, DHEA protects us about our bone density, helps keep our LDL, that's I'm going to say bad cholesterol. It's not really bad cholesterol, but bad cholesterol, less desirable. There you go. Cholesterol low, exactly. And provides us with energy and helps us maintain our sleep patterns. And both DHEA and the other one are precursors for testosterone and estrogen. So what that means is they are used to make those hormones in simple terms. So during a woman's normal menstrual cycle, this is back when, we have day one. First of all, our bodies as women come pre-stocked with 1 to 2 million eggs or follicles. And those by puberty have dropped to about 300,000 to 400,000. We lose about 1,000 follicles a month, okay? Whereas men, they create on demand their entire life. So their hormones are more steady, I will say, for the most part. So day one of our menses, we get our period, We shed the lining, the uterine lining, the blood, the tissue. And because we're not pregnant, our estrogen levels and progesterone levels drop, okay? Day 6 to 14 is the follicular phase. And that is our body preparing once again for pregnancy. So our ovaries release estrogen to get that uterine lining to start thickening up again. And our pituitary gland releases follicle stimulating hormone to trigger the follicles in our ovaries to actually grow. And typically only one follicle will mature into an egg. So follicles cells have cells within them that actually drive growth by secreting estrogen and testosterone. Okay, so now we're getting those chemicals go through our body. So day 14 then, where our pituitary gland is releasing luteinizing hormone, which is getting our ovaries to release that follicle or that mature egg, which will collapse in on itself and become what's referred to as the corpus luteum. And this becomes a temporary gland in and of itself, which can produce estrogen and progesterone. So day 15 to 28, the mature egg then makes its way through our fallopian tubes to our uterus, where, and everybody knows this part, where if fertilized by sperm, then implants into the uterine lining, happy days, we're pregnant. Or maybe not happy days, we're pregnant, depending on where you are in life, right? If not fertilized, this corpus luteum then starts to disintegrate, and now our progesterone levels and our estrogen levels drop, okay? So that's the normal menstrual cycle. So in terms of our aging reproductive system, first of all, we have pre-menopause, perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause are kind of the stages. Typically, we reach perimenopause, menopause between the ages of 45 and 55. And it lasts anywhere, and they never told me this when I was going through biology in high school. It lasts between 7 and 14 years. My belief was, oh, when I get there, it'll be a year or two, we're good. So wrong. I wish I would have known. So you reach menopause. The definition of menopause is when you have, your period has stopped for over a year, okay? So each time we ovulate, as our bodies are aging, we're losing, as I said, about 1,000 follicles a month. And each year, as each year passes, as we age, so too does the quality of the eggs and the signaling systems of the hormones. It's kind of like our hearing we start to lose hearing over a while. It's the same thing, that signaling of the hormones starts to decline as well. And so then we start to get hormonal fluctuations. So essentially, when our ovaries run out of eggs, run out of follicles, we're not producing those chemicals, those hormones, the estrogen and progesterone and testosterone from the ovaries. So we're now producing them. What I said earlier was from our adrenal glands and our fat cells. There's a process in which that happens. We're not going to get into that today. But anything like me, I mentioned that I did everything wrong entering menopause. So when I went back to school, I was perimenopausal. I was working 35 hours a week, going to school 20 hours a week, studying on top of that. I was not sleeping. My sleep was about 3 to 4 hours a night. My adrenal glands were absolutely maxed out. When I went to the doctor, they did not register. I was in adrenal fatigue. So of course, my night sweats, all of the symptoms were full blown because my adrenal glands were just trying to keep up with the day-to-day demands that I was putting on my body, let alone doing all this work and creating the estrogen that I needed in my body, right? So when we enter menopause in a overworked adrenal state, then we're going to run into problems. So, and the other thing to know too is, as I said, it's not just estrogen, it's progesterone, it's testosterone, right? It's all of those other hormones that are playing a role. So it's not just a one size fits all. You know, you could have low progesterone, you could have low estrogen, you could have low DHE, you could have a combination of any of those, right? So it's not a straightforward answer. You have to do a little bit of detective work, right? With the doctor, they can help you figure that out, right? And what we get a lot in here is that we'll have women coming in and say, I need to deal with hot flashes, I need to deal with sleep, I'm really angry. And it's and they're not, sometimes they're equating it to menopause. Like the mood thing is real too, right? But there's not one solution, right? There's a lot of things that go into what is it, right? What the chicken, the egg, what are the pieces? There's so many things that influence the hormones, right? Another thing that a lot of women aren't aware of is the connection to other systems, right? I didn't know this, that first of all, estrogen, let me explain that the first hormone to start to decline is progesterone. So what happens in early phases is that we have high levels of estrogen in our body that we want to clear out. And what they refer to as it's unopposed. Progesterone helps keep estrogen in balance at the right amount. But when estrogen goes unopposed and we have high levels of estrogen in our bodies, what happens is it can actually block the action of our thyroid hormones. So you could be, again, my own example, I was taking desiccated thyroid because my energy levels were tanked, no wonder. Thought that would be helpful with my naturopath, and I was getting nothing. So then they put me on Synthroid, was getting nothing. Well, it doesn't matter if the tests even show that your levels are normal. If it's blocking the action, the medication's not going to help, nor is, I need to deal with the estrogen, not the thyroid. So also low estrogen. So when you go through, low estrogen then promotes fat storage. We all get that bit here. And then that's linked to insulin resistance, which is linked to diabetes. So it can be a slippery slope, this menopause thing, if we're not aware and doing what we can proactively, right? Let me just see. So I guess the big message I want everybody to take away today is that like menopause is just not an inconvenience. And I think that as women, we try to minimize it and say, oh, it's just, it's just this and it's just that. But really we need to take it seriously because there's so many related down the road issues. Most women are familiar with bone loss, and that's related. Also, sarcopenia is a big thing with women. It's the loss of muscle. If I go out year after year doing the same exercise, I'm still losing 1% muscle every year or more. So if I want to build muscle, I've been training, I just did a 10K, I needed to build muscle, I needed to be doing more, having more protein, building more than just year after year. And that's where you see, I can't do what I did last year in the same way, right? So And sarcopenia is also linked to that bone density bit, because what happens when you don't have that bone or that muscle mass, you can't catch yourself when you're about to fall, right? Those things. And then there's a lot of statistics around fractures and downline ramifications. Also, they're finding a lot more links for women than in men to Alzheimer's because of the cognition and the protective effects of estrogen. So we need to be more diligent with our brains. Joint pain, a lot of women are familiar with that. Anything with itis is basically inflammation. So we want to deal with that. And insulin resistance. We want to make sure that we're eating well and protecting our bodies from diabetes. So our hormones are always fluctuating, and there's an optimal range that they fluctuate within for our physical performance, right? It's like our heartbeat, you know, we may run fast, we may sleep, it's going to go high, it's going to go low, but within a range, right? Our blood, the acidity of our blood range is very, very small. And if we go outside that range, we won't go there. But so there's all sorts of things that influence our hormones and the range that it's in. So anybody have some guesses as to what are some of the things that influence our hormones? Just shout it out. Sorry? Stress, absolutely. Stress, lack of sleep, yep. Deficiencies, absolutely, yeah. Alcohol, yeah, you're absolutely, you're hitting each one that I have here. Toxins, awesome, you guys are great. Inflammation, absolutely. So all of these things are things that we need to be looking at, right? And lifestyle and activity are a big thing, but we don't often think of is what are the vitality of the organs involved in menopause as we're heading into. And so those organs are, of course, our adrenal glands, right? Our filtering organs, our kidneys, and our liver. What shape are they in as we go through this journey, right? So that they can be doing their job optimally. So here's a few things that, just some general suggestions, right? We talked about inflammation. So eating, I'm not going to go into each one of these. I will a little bit specifically later, but anti-inflammatory diet, strategic supplementation, reducing stress is a huge one. We want to bring those cortisol levels down, right? Sleep optimization, there's a lot of things. You know, it's amazing what a good pair of blackout blinds can do for your sleep. You know, there's all kinds of things that we can do. Adequate protein intake for women, especially. And now there's been a lot of talk back and forth. And the latest I've heard is a gram per pound of weight, essentially. So at 120 pounds, I'm going to be taking 120 grams of protein. Now, give or take, depending on lifestyle, depending on, you know, I was training. So, you know, I was struggling to get my protein because I don't eat meat. I just don't like it. So that was a struggle for me. Exercise and specifically resistance training. We want to put pressure on our bones so that they can grow and they can continue to have that density going. So one of the things that I suggest to clients is kind of what I refer to as a stop approach. So take a step back, because we get so going as women. We have so many things on our mind and we just want to cut to the chase, get to the solution, right? And what happens when we try and solve problems from that space is they're not coming to us. We're not in touch with our intuitive nature. So if we step back and take a breath, it's amazing how much just taking a breath can do to help calm our bodies. So I want everybody right now just to take a breath. Doesn't that feel good? Feels good. So then the O stands for observe and triage. I have too many clients coming to me saying, you know, this is happening and this is happening. I'm trying this and I'm trying this. And what about this? And how about that? They're so overwhelmed with everything that they don't know where to begin. So when you go to an emergency room, they triage, right? They say, what's the most important critical thing I need to deal with first, right? Is it breathing, bleeding bones? Well, for us, we have to look at menopause in the same way, or I suggest we do, is what are, you know, is my liver working? You know, what's my lifestyle? Am I exercising? Let's look at all of those components and then decide. And that's the P, is plan a strategy. Because that way we're not overwhelmed. We can step one, step two, we'll get to that. It's not that we're not ignoring it, but let's start here and start there. Because too often I find, especially in women way more than men, is that we get so stressed about trying to do the right thing that we don't do anything at all. And we're raising or trying to do the right thing and we get stressed, right? And that raises our cortisol and that's not helping us either, right?
And to have stronger caretaking goals.
Mm-hmm. And neglecting ourselves. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, just that stopping, because we have an intuitive nature in ourselves. And if we tap into that, it's going to give us direction. But if we're too busy, we're not tapping into that intuitive nature, right? So let's move on to some specific solutions here. So foods. The biggest one is probably going to be phytoestrogens. So flaxseed, flax oil, bone broth, miso, tempeh, those are all phytoestrogens that can help raise our estrogen levels. Phytoestrogens essentially are just plant estrogens, essentially. Ferments, bone broth, ferments for our bone health. And they also, ferments have a group of bacteria called estrogens, which help metabolize estrogen. So if you're in that early phase and your estrogen levels are high, it helps metabolize them. Also, as we age, and this is men or women, right? As we age, our body's ability to break down the foods into usable nutrients starts to decline. So we need to help it. Maybe sometimes we might need to help it. And ferments can help with that. Also, we'll get to some of the supplements. Seed cycling, yep. I'm not as familiar with that, but yes. Cruciferous veg helps balance estrogens. I mentioned miso and tempeh, also a great source of protein. Sprouted broccoli, clover, really supportive of the immune system. A little bit more difficult to find, but black truffles are great for inflammation, reducing inflammation. And of course, there's all of the mushroom family. But reishi have immune modulating and calming properties, cordyceps for energy and stamina, and of course, green tea, which can help boost metabolism. So before I get to supplements, what I always say to my clients is food first, supplements second, right? We eat well, nutritiously, and supplements are supposed to be supplemental, right? To make up for any differences that we might have. So of course, number one for me that I found helpful, and it may be different for everybody, is adrenal support. We have in the store, we have the Life Choice adrenal supplementation. Yeah, adrenals are something that take a while. So that's something also, we're looking for a quick fix often, and there is no quick fix. It's going to take a while. When I talked to my acupuncturist, she said, you gotta be patient. It's going to be at least 6 months before those adrenal glands start to turn around. So be patient. Vitamin D and K, of course, are for your bones to help absorb that calcium. Something that I wasn't aware of was that as our estrogen levels decline, so too does our ability to absorb that magnesium. So we might be needing more magnesium support. And I won't get into it, but magnesium is just such an amazing thing. Just anti-anxiety, so many great things that it can do in our body. Omega-3s is one of my favorites. Great for our brain, but also for inflammation, right? We typically, not with this crowd, of course, get way too many omega-6s. And what happens is if it's out of a range, out of a balance, then we can get inflammation. So omega-3 is one of those things that can kind of right the boat. Probiotics, I mentioned about the gut being out of balance. So probiotics can help us keep our gut in good health. And of course, collagen for all our tissues, our nails, our skin, our teeth, that kind of stuff. So let's talk about herbs. So my three go-tos, probably black cohosh. It has serotonin-like compounds. And I think I don't know if we don't. And then Dong Quai is the next one that I would suggest is a fantastic one. It's part of the parsley family, and it's going to help with that osteoporosis or prevention of. And it also is great for when your cholesterol levels are high, it'll help decrease that as well. And also anti-inflammatory as well. So that's the Dong Quai. And now all of these kind of herbs and such, I mean, you can make teas out of it. You can get it in tincture form. Like I have cordyceps here, or lion's mane for your brain, or reishi. We have it in extracts or in tincture form. My favorite is tincture forms because I can carry it in my purse and then just drop it in my mouth if I need to or want to. I do have extracts at home too because I use them in my elixirs that I make at home. So those are the two. Chasteberry or Vitex is the next big one, and that's the one hot flashes can relieve with hot flashes and sleep disturbances. Again, Vitex. Yeah, it's also referred to as chasteberry. Hot flashes. Vitex. Vitex. Yeah. Yeah. Again, Vitex is chasteberry. I thought I brought chasteberry here. We do have chasteberry in the shop. It's like a berry. You might be able to comment. Yeah. Yeah, I thought I brought it in here. Yeah, it's Vitex, and it's also referred to as chasteberry. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, and it's also balances our estrogen and progesterone, so that's helpful as well. Everybody's probably familiar with wild yam. It's a phytoestrogen. So we have in the shop, we have, again, Life Choice. Life Choice is actually a company based out of Cochrane, so local here. And this is a phytoestrogen. Now it's their own proprietary blend, so I don't know if it's yam or what it is, but I got onto that one. too. So, and this is where you're gonna have to choose, like, here's a bunch of stuff, but think about where you are, what your lifestyle is, what's gonna fit in, what your issues are, etc. Awesome, thank you.
T form and then
And the tincture form. So that's what you can look, that's what it looks like. See in the back, right? This is the Vitex chaseberry. So you could make a tea with it. You could, I don't know, what else do you do with that? Tea is primarily, yeah, exactly. I tend to go toward, again, the tinctures, mainly because they're just so easy to use, right? I can drop them in whatever I'm drinking. I can drop it right in here into my drink, and, or if I need to, just drop it in my mouth, right? Quick and easy. So that was wild yam. Now, this is one that I was drawn to intuitively, was pine pollen. So pine pollen is typically something that men will go toward to boost their testosterone. And I'm like, why am I wanting pine pollen? Why am I wanting pine pollen? And this was leading up to my 10K run. And I'm like, feeling really good. I think I even said to Malcolm, I'm feeling really good. I have the energy, I have the strength, we're good. I needed that little boost in testosterone. So we think of these things as for men or for women, but really we gotta wipe that slate clean and say, how is it going to help my body? How is it going to function in my body based on how I'm doing, right?
Well, you mentioned those, the androgens, the testosterone.
Exactly.
Genisteon and the DHEA, like
Yep.
that's all in pine pollen.
That's all. Yeah, exactly. So it's magic.
It is magic.
It's magic. I have, so the pine pollen is here. We have both, I think we're out of hours, because I looked to see if we had hours, but I didn't see any.
I've been collecting.
You've been collecting, so that's fantastic.
This is Alex's little personal stash, but
Yeah.
that's what we've been collecting in the cloud right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I make as much as I can for the year, pictures, and then when it's gone, it's gone. So I got the first few batch coming.
Fantastic. And it's our elixir of the month, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So you can get it in powder form or in tincture form. I have it in both, just to make sure I'm covered. Yeah, it's going to vary per person as to how much you want. I was taking probably, I gotta think here, about a quarter teaspoon a day in my drinks. And that was of the powder. I just got the tincture. So I thought we were out, and then I found one.
Yeah.
So
The powder is going to be more nutritive, like it's extremely nutritious. You can have some of the hormonal action,
Right.
but if you're looking for all those androgens and to affect the hormonal system, then tincture is the way to go.
So I have not done that yet. I'm so excited to try that.
Or a combination.
A combination
Yeah.
thereof.
It sounds like, like the powder was working.
The powder was working for me, and I didn't need that much, but wow, what a difference it made in my energy level. All of a sudden I was getting through my day, and it's like, oh, I can keep going, right? So that is, where did we leave off? Pine pollen, my favorite. Licorice is also great. Great for hot flashes. Not just how long they last, but the depth. You've probably, shorter and whatnot. What else? Sage is another really great one. There was an Iranian study that they took 300 milligrams and of sage daily for 3 months, and it greatly reduced, again, the duration and the depth of that. So again, 3 months, right? It wasn't an overnight thing. Yarrow is hormone balancing. Suma helps regulate progesterone. Maca, of course, for hormone balancing. Red clover, great for blood pressure, great phytoestrogens and bone strength. And then ginkgo biloba, also phytoestrogens. and improves hormonal imbalances. So you'll see a lot of them are kind of hormonal imbalances. And so that's really what we're trying to do is balance out those hormones within that range that we want, right? And then we have on the other side is essential oils. And we don't think of essential oils as being something that we can use for menopause, but absolutely. Number 1 and 2 would be clary sage. And again, that's the sage family, right? And we can put it on our feet, on our wrists, whatever. We can add it to a bath. You can put a drop and drink it. My favorite is just putting a drop on my palm, rubbing my palms together, and then inhaling it, cupping my hands and inhaling it. So there's thyme. Peppermint is great for hot flashes. Basil is increasing estrogen, helps improve our mood and mental clarity, right? That's the other thing. Fennel is great phytoestrogen. Chamomile, chamomile is a calming effect. So, and also boost mood and libido. That I do not know. Do you know that one? I'm not. I would have to research that. Yeah. Lavender is just that anti-anxiety thing. So if you're dealing with mood things, a lot of anger and stuff like that, lavender is great for that. Neroli is great for estrogen. And I think that is just about my time, a little bit beyond my time, but we have a few minutes here for any questions. Yes, Anya. Yeah. Rhodiola is great for stamina. Yeah, rhodiola would be good too, for sure. I mean, yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah. And very quickly, yeah. 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 Rhodiola is a great one. I love rhodiola. And this is the thing, everybody's gonna, yeah. 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 That you're right. That probably should be on the list. And everybody's body is gonna be like I really gravitated to the pine pollen. Right? So you use that intuition, right? And what are you feeling when customers come into the shop? I'll ask, I'll say you can go here or here, but what, I gave you a choice. What do you instinctively go toward? And they will always say, I was attracted to this, then go with that, right? Mm-hmm.
Is it too late to kind of catch up?
Never too late. Never too late for better nutrition, never too late to build our muscles, never too late to help our bones. Yeah. Okay. Everything. Everything. Yeah. Right.
Too late to start.
No, not at all. No. They've even, yeah. Well, and here's the thing is, yeah, and even, this book here is she's an OBGYN, and she talks about how she just, even as an OBGYN, they don't have the education. And they have to go back in their busy schedules to do the research, to do the education themselves. So yeah, you're right. There's not a ton of help. That goes back to my first comment where reproductive, tons of research papers. Menopause, not so much, right? So we're a little bit on our own here.
I think one of the challenges too is that slide you had of the conditions that occur.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of times I think all of that is just written off as aging. You're just aging.
Yeah.
And so the medical profession doesn't make any effort to help with that because they go, oh, it's just aging. Certainly.
Yeah,
it's so busy that it's not noticing. Or it's the fact that you dismiss it because it's so busy that you go, oh, I'm tired of it.
It's not an inconvenience. Yeah.
My son's got not even aware of that, and then I thought,
Awesome.
oh,
Yeah.
Okay, so we
fantastic.
got a question online
Okay.
here.
And then we
So,
have one over here too.
all right. So with all the multiple supplements available, how do you narrow down so you aren't taking everything?
Yeah.
And how do you learn about what is actually absorbing? As sometimes the harm in the body blocks absorption.
Okay, so that's a really big question.
Yeah. So how do you, we'll start with how,
Question.
how
So
you narrow it down.
that's where having a professional help you, like, because you've got to look at lifestyle, you've got to look at all of those things where I said, let me go back here. Whoops. Oh, I just lost it entirely. It'll come back. Or not. Okay, let me go back to, let me go view. So you can do it yourself. It's easier to do with somebody. And let me try and get back to this slide here where, oh, there it is. So this is a good place to start, right? Like, what am I eating right? Am I having an anti-inflammatory diet? Oh, and I forgot to mention, one of our own, Madeline, has written a book. And I really, really highly recommend it. She's done an awesome job. You can take a look. She has recipes in it. She also has in it, she has, you know, how to tell, is my progesterone level too high or too low? What's, you know, is my estrogen level too high or too low? And then she explains kind of everything that I've explained as well. So it's a great starting point, right? It's a great starting point. And that's what I would recommend, is just start somewhere. That's Madeline McKinnon. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, start with, you know, anti-inflammatory diet. Start with one supplement. You don't want to start with all kinds of things, because then you don't know what's working for you. I mean, certain supplements I just take all the time because I know that I'm not getting enough D.
So if someone was,
Yep.
someone was starting out extremely hormonal.
Yeah.
What something that's there.
Hormonal, I would look here and say, because hormonal can be too high progesterone, too high estrogen, and it's going to be different, right? So I would take a look there. Sorry, thank you for your patience.
It just correlates to my question, like, it's really hard, it's not extremely hard to determine like what hormones are balanced, because when you test, it's different from when, like, all of these things. What is the best method to actually try to ascertain that information?
Definitively, I would have my doctor testing. And this is where it's really important to find a doctor that you can work with, because a lot of the doctors, it took me a while to find a doctor that would actually work in partnership. Yeah, so like I go to my doctor. Yeah. And again, you're, yeah. Yeah.
What is the option for a workaround to be able to
obtain that? So if you can't get the testing, the definitive testing through your doctor, I would grab this book, because she does say, like, she gives you a little questionnaire to help guide you as to whether or not it's like, here's what high progesterone levels look like. Here's what high estrogen, here's what low progesterone looks like. So she's going to guide you through that. Yep. My main sources of protein, I just discovered, and I love the black walnut protein that we have here. It is, because a lot of the vegan type proteins, I felt really bloaty and full and it was like, oh my God, it's gonna take me all day to just get this 30 grams in. That protein doesn't do that. So it's the black walnut in there. I've experimented a little bit with some other proteins. It's a beef isolate protein as well. Yeah. And those are the ones that I go to, because I can get 30 grams in like in a jar and I can drink it and I don't feel full and bloated and all of that. Yes. Powder, yeah, yeah. And I think we're,
I learned that help. You really need to reduce the caffeine. If you're a really
Trigger
coffee
points.
drinker, black tea. It's really, caffeine's really hard on the males. And so my herbalist had me this no cold turkey, no coffee, no tea.
Mhm.
And it was hard. I was a very heavy coffee drinker. I had a headache for 3 months after I stopped. But it made a big difference. Because she said, if you drink a lot of coffee, a lot of black teas, she said, it's like somebody standing behind you wearing steel-toed boots, kicking you in your kidneys, in your adrenals. And so sometimes it's not just what we ingest and eat as far as supplements and food and stuff, but it's what we
Also.
eliminate or else reduce. And
Yeah.
reducing the
Toxins.
caffeine or limiting
Yeah.
caffeine.
how are we on time?
Yeah.
Okay, one more question?
Quick question. Yeah.
One more quick question. Sorry,
Mushroom coffee.
mushroom coffee. Yeah,
So the mushrooms that will definitely like help soften the caffeine. They help neutralize some of the weak acids. You'll be getting a lot of benefits from them, but it's still stimulating and will affect the adrenals. So I think, it might be one of those things. It's like, okay, if I'm used to 3 cups a day, I'm going to go to 1 or 2 and I'll have with mushrooms, so you kind of reduce and add
Mhm.
depending. Yeah.
The dandy blend.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful.
Awesome.
So Jen is available if you want to chat with her after. We're just going to take a quick 10-minute break. We'll kind of get it all set up and we're going to dive